Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we embark on an illuminating journey, unpacking complex ideas and really extracting those golden nuggets of insight just for you. Today, we're plunging into a truly extraordinary set of sources. It's a profound book born from, well, an unprecedented week-long conversation.
That's right. Between two of the world's most revered spiritual titans, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Exactly.
So we're taking a deep dive into the Book of Joy. It's this remarkable collaboration that, seamlessly weaves together their profound wisdom, some cutting-edge scientific insights, and the deeply moving account of their actual meeting in Dharamsala.
Right.
Our mission today really is to distill their hard-won wisdom. We're focusing intently on understanding the powerful lessons they offer. We want to make them easy to grasp, hopefully incredibly entertaining to explore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most importantly, show you how to implement these transformative ideas in your daily life, how to actually cultivate a lasting, profound sense of joy.
As we begin, you might naturally wonder, can true joy really be found amidst life's inevitable sorrows and heartbreaks?
It's a fair question.
They suggest it's not just possible, but that joy is our very birthright, something far more fundamental, more enduring than just, fleeting happiness.
Yeah, and as these two spiritual giants put it, happiness can often depend on external circumstances like a new promotion, a sunny day, a great meal.
Sure, things outside of us.
But joy does not. It's not about somehow avoiding hardship. In fact, the Archbishop himself wisely noted that discovering more joy doesn't save us from heartbreak.
That's interesting. So it doesn't make life, easier.
And not necessarily easier in that sense. He muses that we might even cry more easily, but we'll also undoubtedly laugh more easily. Perhaps, he says, we simply become more alive.
More alive. I like that. So what does this profound distinction between happiness and joy mean for you listening right now? Let's unpack this and discover how to transform joy from maybe an ephemeral feeling into an enduring, deeply rooted way of being. Okay, let's begin by exploring a concept that's both fascinating and really foundational to their whole philosophy of joy: mental immunity.
Right.
The Dalai Lama explains this isn't just about coping with destructive emotions after they hit. It's about learning to actively preempt them.
Preempt them.
Yeah, and cultivate positive ones, much like how a healthy physical immune system protects against viruses.
That's a great analogy.
He emphasizes that just as a strong body can ward off illness and recover quickly from infection, a truly healthy disposition of the mind makes it far less susceptible to negative thoughts and feelings.
So you bounce back faster.
Exactly, allowing you to quickly recover rather than being completely overwhelmed.
What's truly compelling here, I think, is the profound distinction they draw between physical and mental pain. While we instinctively rush to cure or prevent physical illness, we go to doctors, get medicine, take preventative measures.
Of course.
The Dalai Lama argues quite powerfully that mental pain is equally bad, maybe even worse sometimes.
Equally bad.
And it demands a similar, if not more diligent, proactive approach. He notes that if your mental health is weak, if your inner disposition is fragile,
easily shaken.
Yeah, exactly. Then even the smallest disturbances can cause disproportionate suffering, fear, and worry. He likens it to having a weak physical constitution, where even minor viruses can become profoundly dangerous.
Right, potentially leading to severe illness or worse.
Exactly. Our emotional fragility, they assert, can be just as debilitating as physical frailty.
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? We often fantasize about, a magic pill to make fear or anxiety just vanish, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. A quick fix.
But they're quite clear. That's an impossible dream. They assert that genuine mental immunity isn't a quick fix. It's about cultivating the mind over time.
Through consistent, dedicated effort.
Yes. There's no quickest and best solution here. You get one or the other. And the best solution, they insist, is the one that takes consistent effort and training.
Like building a muscle.
Precisely. Like exercising a muscle. You don't build physical strength instantly. You train, you persist, and over time, that inner fortitude builds.
Allowing you to manage and bounce back from emotional distress far more effectively.
Right.
Okay, but that raises a critical question many of us might ask. Does mental immunity mean completely avoiding negative emotions? Like striving for some kind of detached stoicism?
Yeah, is that even possible?
Well, the Archbishop offers a vital nuance here. He suggests we shouldn't beat ourselves up for experiencing negative emotions.
Yeah.
They are, after all, natural and often unavoidable parts of being human. In fact, he warns that these emotions can be intensified by the glue of guilt and shame if we try to deny them or feel bad for having them.
So feeling bad about feeling bad just makes it worse.
Exactly. He reminds us that we are human, and sometimes it's good, even necessary, to just recognize our human emotions. Now, the Dalai Lama agrees that emotions are natural occurrences, but he stresses that mental immunity helps us avoid being consumed by them, or at the very least,
It helps you manage them better.
it helps us recover with remarkable speed from distress. It's not about achieving emotional perfection, but about developing your spiritual and mental capacity, so that when negative emotions do inevitably arise, you possess the inner resources to manage them, understand their transient nature, and bounce back with resilience.
So it's about not letting them take root and dictate your state of being.
Precisely.
So as you reflect on this, maybe consider, when mental pain arises in your life, do you treat it with the same seriousness, the same proactive urgency as you would a physical ailment?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
How might actively developing a healthy disposition of the mind reduce your susceptibility to those persistent negative thoughts, allowing you to recover quickly instead of finding yourself overwhelmed by even small things?
It's a fundamental shift, really, in how we approach our inner landscape.
Now let's turn our attention to those really potent, universal emotions that can so easily derail our joy. Fear, anger, sadness.
The big ones.
Yeah. The Dalai Lama offers a powerful tool for navigating them: analytical meditation.
Okay, analytical meditation. What does that involve?
Well, for fear, he suggests a remarkably counterintuitive approach,
Oh,
facing the worst possible outcome head on.
really? Just confront it.
Yeah. Ask yourself, he advises, could you survive it? And perhaps, could it actually be beneficial?
Beneficial. That sounds challenging.
It does. He shares a vivid personal anecdote from his youth, recounting how he used to perceive terrifying ghosts in a dark, quiet area of the Patala Palace.
Oh.
Yet upon closer inspection, he realized it was merely a mental projection, just a trick of the mind.
So not real danger.
Exactly. This experience profoundly illustrated for him how fear often isn't based on an actual external reality. The real danger of a, mad dog is one thing.
Sure.
But an imagined threat, a figment of our own anxious minds, is entirely another beast.
Right. And if we truly connect this to the broader picture of managing our emotional lives, the Dalai Lama's emphasis on distinguishing between genuine external danger and our internal projections is utterly critical.
So knowing the difference.
Knowing the difference. And for frustration and anger, he offers an equally insightful strategy. He advises analyzing the root causes of the anger.
Okay.
And, crucially, considering one's own contributing attitude.
Ooh, taking responsibility.
Yes. Perhaps, he suggests, your own behavior or perception inadvertently contributed to someone disliking you or acting in a way that caused irritation. This self-reflection, combined with recognizing that basic human nature is good in others, even those who provoke us, can profoundly shift your emotional state.
How so?
It can transform anger into genuine concern or even sorrow for the other person's destructive emotions. You might start to feel empathy for their pain and suffering, rather than just personal frustration.
Seeing beyond the immediate offense to their underlying humanity. Exactly. And building on that, the Archbishop, with his characteristic wisdom, reminds us that nothing beautiful in the end comes without a measure of some pain, some frustration, some suffering.
The childbirth metaphor.
Yes, he beautifully uses the metaphor of childbirth, where immense satisfaction and joy often follow deeply painful experiences. He recounts the truly profound example of Nelson Mandela's 27 years in jail, a period many might have seen as just a devastating waste of a life.
Understandably.
Yet, the Archbishop powerfully argues that those years were necessary to remove the dross, like a purification process.
Removing the dross.
Yeah, that made Mandela more magnanimous, more willing to listen to the other side, uniquely able to put himself in the shoes of his very enemies.
Wow.
This process of facing and transforming negative things is what truly determines the magnificent, resilient person we become.
Rather than making us squeezed and tight and just... What's truly fascinating is how modern science directly backs this up. Prenatal researcher Pathak Wadhwa, for instance, found that stress and opposition are precisely what initiate development in utero.
Really? In the womb?
Yeah. Without biological stress, stem cells wouldn't differentiate and evolve into complex life forms. It's a fundamental biological law that growth often requires challenge.
Never thought of it that way.
And the Dalai Lama succinctly adds to this, noting that Where there is fear, frustration will come. Frustration brings anger. They're intimately linked.
Part of our natural response system.
Exactly. Designed to prepare us to either flee perceived danger or fight perceived threats. Recognizing the naturalness of these links helps us work with them.
That makes me wonder then, what about what some people call righteous anger? Is there a place for that in this framework, or is all anger ultimately destructive?
That's an excellent and crucial question, and it's a distinction they address with remarkable clarity. The Archbishop, drawing from his own experience during apartheid, spoke powerfully about righteous anger. He wasn't talking about anger from personal offense or a bruised ego.
Okay, not self-centered anger.
Right. Instead, he described a fierce indignation sparked by injustice directed at others. He embodied this himself as a rabble-rouser for peace.
A rabble-rouser for peace. I like that.
His anger was a powerful moral fuel for advocating for those being harmed, those being oppressed. So yes, there is a place for it, but it's defined by its object. Compassionate concern for others.
Not personal gain or revenge.
Exactly. That's what distinguishes it from the self-centered anger they see as ultimately corrosive.
And when it comes to sadness, which often feels like the most stubborn emotion, the book notes it tends to last longer than others, right? Like up to 5 days.
Yeah, compared to maybe 30 minutes for fear or anger on average.
Yet, new studies by researcher Joseph Forgas reveal that mild sadness can actually have surprising benefits.
Benefits to sadness, like what?
Better judgment, improved memory, increased motivation, and even greater generosity.
Wow. It's a powerful paradox, isn't it?
It really is. The Buddha's mustard seed story illustrates this vividly. A grieving mother seeks a cure for her dead child.
Right, she has to find a mustard seed from a home untouched by death.
Exactly. And her journey reveals the universal truth of suffering. In that shared recognition, her personal grief is profoundly alleviated.
So seeing our common humanity in suffering.
Yes. Grief, they gently remind us, is not a burden to avoid, but a reminder of the depth of our love.
Without love, there's no grief.
So it's intrinsically linked to our capacity for connection. It's about acknowledging the pain, but also embracing what it reveals about our love.
A powerful reframe.
So when you face those inevitable waves of fear, anger, or sadness, can you maybe pause and deeply analyze their roots?
Instead of just reacting.
Right. Can you begin to see difficult circumstances not just as roadblocks, but as maybe profound opportunities for growth, like Mandela did?
How might shifting your perspective in those moments change your entire experience of these challenging emotions, moving you from reaction to mindful response?
Food for thought, definitely. Moving on. In our relentlessly fast-paced modern world with its constant pressures, the digital overload, so many of us live with chronic stress and anxiety.
It feels like the default state sometimes, doesn't it?
It really does. The Dalai Lama attributes much of this pervasive feeling of being overwhelmed to too much expectation and too much ambition.
Unrealistic goals.
Yeah. When we set these goals, or when our self-centered attitude insists, I want this, I want that, and those desires aren't met, well, we inevitably experience frustration.
Which then fuels the stress and anxiety cycle.
Exactly.
And what's truly groundbreaking here is how modern science directly validates this ancient wisdom. Neuroscientist Richard Davidson.
Oh yeah, the pioneer in contemplative neuroscience.
That's him. He's found that meditation confers measurable, significant benefits for the brain. It literally changes its structure and function.
Wow.
He even shared a story that knowing these scientific benefits was so inspiring, it helped the Dalai Lama himself get out of bed for his notoriously early 3 a.m. practice in freezing Dharamsala.
Huh. Even His Holiness needs a little motivation sometimes.
Apparently so. And furthermore, the pioneering research by Elizabeth Blackburn and Alyssa Epsilon and telomeres.
The caps on our DNA, right?
Exactly. Their research shows that chronic stress literally wears down these caps, impacting our cells at a fundamental biological level.
That's stunning. So stress physically damages us.
It underscores that it's not just the external stressors, but profoundly how we respond to them, our internal narrative, that makes the critical difference. Our cells, they found, are literally listening to our thoughts.
Incredible that our inner state has such a direct physical impact.
It is. So they encourage us to develop stress resilience by consciously transforming threat stress, where we see an event as harmful and overwhelming.
Like, oh no, I can't handle this.
Right, into challenge stress, where we see it as an opportunity for growth, a hurdle to overcome, maybe even a chance to discover new strengths.
Okay, so shifting the perception, how do we do that?
The remedy they propose is remarkably straightforward. When you notice that familiar fight-or-flight response, kicking in a pounding heart, rapid breathing, adrenaline surge,
Yeah, the panic feeling.
pause. Then, consciously remind yourself. Your body isn't facing unavoidable danger. It's simply preparing to rise to a challenge, to perform, to adapt.
Just changing the story you tell yourself about the physical feeling.
Exactly. This simple shift in internal narrative can profoundly alter your physiological response. The Archbishop often makes a powerful point about this, suggesting that those in the marketplace, business people, workers, everyday folks, navigating modern life's pressures.
Most of us.
Right. They need time for prayer, reflection, quiet contemplation, even more than religious leaders do, precisely because of these constant pressures and the feeling of always chasing time.
That makes sense. We need the tools more.
He also perceptively suggests that loneliness can significantly contribute to distress, and that simply thinking about others who are also awake and unable to sleep.
Like late at night.
Yeah. Just knowing you're not alone in that moment can lessen your personal worry. It connects you to a broader sense of common humanity.
A sense of shared experience.
Which can reduce that personal burden.
So, thinking about your own life, are your expectations for yourself realistic? Or are they constantly setting you up for frustration and anxiety?
How do you currently cope with stress, with feeling overwhelmed?
Can you consciously practice shifting your perspective from threat to challenge in your daily life, maybe just for one frustrating moment today, and observe how your body and mind respond?
It's about reclaiming that sense of inner calm.
It's one of the great paradoxes of modern life, isn't it? We can be surrounded by millions in bustling cities, yet feel this almost unbearable sense of deep isolation. Loneliness?
It's sadly common.
The Dalai Lama vividly describes how people in the big cities are very busy, caught up in their own worlds, but often tragically lack fundamental human connection.
Which leads to profound loneliness when they feel they have no one genuine to turn to.
He recalls his own experience arriving in New York City, where he was bewildered by people actively avoiding eye contact. He called it a willful avoidance.
Completely foreign to his experience.
He found that lack of simple human acknowledgement deeply unsettling.
And if we connect this to the broader tapestry of human existence, the Archbishop powerfully introduces Ubuntu.
Ah, the African concept.
Yes, that a person is a person through other persons. It fundamentally highlights our absolute interdependence. We literally shrivel if there is no other.
Like solitary confinement being the worst punishment.
Precisely, because it denies that fundamental human need. And modern scientific research by Zhang and Gabriel even physically demonstrates this.
How so?
They found that when people feel lonely, they literally seek warmth, like instinctively wanting hot soup or a warm bath.
Wow, a physical craving for warmth.
Yeah. The Dalai Lama and Archbishop suggest we can actively generate that warmth, not just for ourselves, but for others, simply by opening our hearts, showing warm-heartedness.
A genuine interest in others' well-being. The Dalai Lama takes this even further, urging us to think about the 7 billion human beings on this planet and realize that at our core, we are all same human beings.
No need for introduction.
Exactly. He recounts poignant stories of just smiling and speaking warmly to strangers in elevators or subways, sometimes met with confusion,
I can laugh.
but far more often eliciting a relieved smile, breaking that trance of separation, acknowledging the human bond beneath the surface.
He notes that the paradox of self-focus is that it often alienates us, not only from others, but from our own true, compassionate selves.
That raises a truly important question then. If we're fundamentally the same, why do we so often emphasize secondary differences, nation, religion, color?
Right. Why the divisions?
They argue that when we learn to relate from the human level, from that place of shared humanity, compassion even for an enemy becomes possible, natural even.
They highlight that scientists are now discovering that our basic human nature is compassionate, pointing to studies of toddlers instinctively helping others.
Like helping a doll that's struggling.
Yeah. But they lament that our modern education systems often fail to adequately nurture these crucial inner values. Too much focus on self-interest and competition. The Archbishop added a powerful plea for religious institutions to be more genuinely welcoming to the lonely, interested in providing warmth and fellowship without ulterior motives.
Just because it's the right thing to do.
Simply because it's the right thing.
So how do you typically engage with strangers in your daily life? Could a simple, genuine smile or a warm greeting truly change your day and maybe profoundly change theirs?
How might actively practicing warm-heartedness in your interactions alleviate any lingering feelings of loneliness? Knowing your inner state and outward actions can literally change the world around you, one connection at a time.
Something to try.
Yeah.
Okay, next obstacle, envy. The Archbishop candidly calls envy a feeling that just rises spontaneously, a deeply human reaction.
Especially when you see, as he put it, that guy goes past yet again in his Mercedes-Benz.
He admits he'd feel that pang himself, acknowledging it's universal to compare ourselves, possessions, achievements, those seemingly perfect lives on social media.
It's hardwired almost.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating here is just how universal this is, even beyond humans. Primatologist Franz de Waal's monkey experiment.
Oh, the cucumber and grape one.
That's the one. It strikingly demonstrates how discomfort with inequality affects even our distant relatives. The monkey offered cucumber was fine.
Until it saw another monkey get a grape for the same task.
Right. Then it refused the cucumber, often throwing it back in indignation.
Hilarious, but telling.
Very telling. And the Tibetan word for envy, trakdak, beautifully illustrates the physical sensation. It literally means heavy or constricted shoulders.
You can almost feel that pinched, resentful feeling it creates.
Exactly. And psychological research consistently shows that upward comparisons, looking at those we perceive as better off, are particularly corrosive to our well-being.
Okay, so it's common, it feels bad, it's corrosive. What's the remedy?
The Archbishop offers two practical approaches. Deceptively simple, but effective. First, gratitude.
Counting your blessings.
Yeah. He acknowledges it might sound old grandfather style, but insists it profoundly helps. Consciously being thankful for what you do have.
Even if it's not the Mercedes?
Even if it's not the Mercedes. Second, he suggests motivation. Using that spark of envy as a spur to work towards your own goals.
So channeling it productively.
Instead of letting it fester into resentment, transform it into productive energy.
Okay. Gratitude and motivation.
And building on those, the Dalai Lama introduces a truly transformative Buddhist concept. Mudita.
Sympathetic joy.
Sympathetic joy. This is presented as the direct, powerful antidote to envy. It's one of the four immeasurables in Buddhist practice.
Along with loving kindness, compassion, equanimity.
Right. The essence of mudita is recognizing that life is not a zero-sum game. Someone else's good fortune doesn't diminish yours.
That's a big shift.
It is. We can consciously, genuinely rejoice in others' good fortune, reminding ourselves, good for him. Just like me, he too wants to be happy. May he be happy.
Congratulating them, wanting them to have more success.
Exactly. It's the profound opposite of Schadenfreude taking pleasure in others' misfortune. It's seeing joy and success as limitless, abundant resources that multiply when shared.
So how often do you find yourself caught in that trap of upward comparisons? Maybe scrolling through social media, comparing your reality to someone's highlight reel.
What happens to your internal state when you do that?
Could actively practicing gratitude or cultivating mudita, that sympathetic joy, truly transform your feelings of dissatisfaction into genuine joy for others, recognizing our common humanity?
A powerful practice to consider.
Okay, now as we transition from navigating those obstacles to actively cultivating joy, the first pillar they explore is perspective.
A crucial one.
The Dalai Lama profoundly states that for every event in life, there are many different angles, and he offers his own life as a powerful testament.
His exile.
Right. He remarkably reframes his 56 years in exile, immense loss and hardship, not merely as tragedy, but as an opportunity.
An opportunity? How?
This exile, he notes, brought him wider contact with the world, new relationships, more freedom to discover different cultures, learn from countless individuals what seems tragic from one angle.
Can reveal unexpected opportunities from another.
Exactly.
This concept of reframing adversity is powerfully illustrated by Edith Eva Eger's story.
The Holocaust survivor and psychologist?
Yes. She observed two paraplegic soldiers with identical injuries. One soldier spent his days railing against fate, consumed by bitterness.
So understandable, perhaps.
But the other chose to see his situation as a second chance, appreciating the newfound closeness to flowers, the sparkle in his children's eyes.
Wow.
It profoundly echoes Viktor Frankl's timeless idea of the last of the human freedoms. The absolute freedom to choose one's attitude, even in the most limiting circumstances.
It's not about denying reality, but choosing how you engage with it.
Precisely.
Building on that, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop actually provide a remarkably simple yet profound framework for tackling any challenge.
Okay, what is it?
They suggest we consciously view it from at least 6 different angles: front, back, sides, top, and bottom.
Like turning an object over in your mind.
Exactly, like using a mental prism. It forces us to move beyond our initial, often limited reaction compelling us to uncover hidden choices or surprising freedoms, even when things feel impossible.
A radical act of expanding our understanding.
Yeah.
And this isn't about promoting a naive Pollyanna optimism, ignoring the difficulty.
Right. It's not just think positive.
No. Rather, it's about cultivating a broader, richer, more nuanced perspective. It's about seeing that even amidst overwhelming calamities, disasters, pandemics, personal tragedies, there are always countless people rising to help, showing incredible compassion and resilience. Our immediate perspective is never the whole truth.
Seeing the helpers, as Mr. Rogers said.
Exactly. It's also profoundly about recognizing our own potential role in conflicts, realizing our viewpoint is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. As Thupten Jinpa, the Dalai Lama's translator and editor, suggests, try a silver lining thought experiment.
Okay.
Take something genuinely bad from your past and consciously consider all the unexpected good that might have ultimately come out of it.
Finding the hidden benefit, even years later.
Potentially.
So for you, thinking about this, when you're next faced with a significant challenge, what might happen if you consciously tried viewing it from those multiple perspectives? Front, back, sides, top, bottom.
Could you actually uncover new opportunities or deeper understandings?
Like Jinpa suggests, could you actively look for the unexpected good that might have eventually emerged from even a difficult past event in your own life?
It's a powerful mental exercise.
The next pillar, humility. The Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu are renowned not just for their wisdom, but for their incredibly playful, often self-denigrating humor.
They really are.
And this isn't just entertaining, it's a living embodiment of their profound humility. The Archbishop, when asked if he was an expert on humility, famously laughed, stating that humility isn't something you can ever claim for yourself. It's something others might say about you if you're lucky. But he was clear. It's absolutely essential for a life filled with joy.
That's such a key insight. Their genuine humility is precisely what allows them to be so remarkably approachable, so deeply connected to others across all walks of life.
It breaks down barriers.
Absolutely. It's not about shrinking from your gifts or denying strengths. Rather, it's recognizing that your abilities aren't solely your own creation. They're gifts from a greater source, held lightly, used in service.
Gifts to be used.
The Dalai Lama recounts his own journey, learning gentleness and patience, moving away from his father's short temper. He also shared how spiritual practice helped him overcome anxiety he felt when young from thinking he was somehow special.
That sense of being special creating anxiety.
Yeah, he noted that very sense of separateness isolates us, creates deep-seated anxiety, prevents genuine connection.
That idea of, may I never feel superior, which they highlight as a powerful Tibetan prayer, is so striking. It emphasizes appreciation for others, not self-elevation.
It really does.
And the anecdotes they share illustrate how absurdity breaks down that illusion of separateness. The spiritual leader needing bricks to raise his chair.
Right, literally trying to be higher than others.
Or the princess and Prince Philip trying to maintain formality while the wind comically blew her skirt. These moments of human foible, shared vulnerability, reveal our common humanity.
We're all just ordinary human beings, striving and stumbling.
Yes.
The Archbishop emphasizes that humility is fundamentally recognizing your gifts come from a source greater than yourself. This allows you to hold them loosely, without ego, and genuinely celebrate others' gifts.
Instead of feeling threatened.
Right. It naturally leads to deeper connection, fostering interdependence, not isolation, seeing yourself as part of a larger whole.
So, how does self-importance, or even a subtle sense of superiority, affect your connections with others in your daily life?
Can you begin to find the humor in your own foibles, your human limitations, seeing them as part of shared humanity, not something to hide?
Consider how cultivating genuine humility might deepen your relationships and significantly reduce anxiety from needing to always be right or best.
It's freeing in a way.
Next up, humor. The entire week of interviews in the book was, by all accounts, filled with uproarious laughter. The Dalai Lama and Archbishop sometimes acting like a comedy duo.
You can picture it.
They both firmly believe that laughter and joking are much better than excessive seriousness. Humor allows for complete relaxation, dissolves tension, fosters openness.
The Dalai Lama specifically notes that wholehearted laughter, not forced or fake, is incredibly good for the brain. It puts us profoundly at ease.
It allows authentic connection.
Exactly. And modern scientists enthusiastically confirm this. Wholehearted laughter has measurable benefits, releasing endorphins, promoting well-being. The Archbishop was a master of using humor for healing and reconciliation. He shares incredible anecdotes.
Like the God molded us out of clay story.
Yes. He used that to bring Hutu and Tutsi leaders together during the Rwandan conflict. Making them laugh at the absurdity of prejudice highlighted their common humanity, open dialogue.
Amazing.
He also famously told the joke about Jesus' denomination to diffuse intense interfaith tension. Laughter made everyone suddenly open to honest, vulnerable communication.
Laughter as a tool for unity, not separation.
That's such a powerful point. It's fundamentally about learning to take ourselves slightly less seriously, seeing the ridiculous in us, even facing life's cruelty and uncertainty.
Taking ourselves less seriously, that's hard sometimes.
It is. The Archbishop often credited his wife, Leah, with keeping him humble through sharp observations. He loved the story of a bumper sticker, she pointed out.
Oh, yeah.
Any woman who wants to be equal to a man has no ambition.
That's good.
This kind of self-deprecating humor helps us laugh at ourselves, deflates ego, invites others in. The Archbishop eloquently argues that true gravitas, real moral authority, doesn't come from austere seriousness. It comes from the ability to make people laugh, especially at yourself.
Interesting. Not from being stern.
Right. This capacity allows for deeper acceptance of life's inherent cruelty and uncertainty, making it more bearable. He advises actively looking for humor in life's daily absurdities.
If you look for it, you'll find it.
You will. And when you do, it makes everything easier, accepting others, navigating life ups and downs.
So where can you find humor in your own daily struggles, even in small frustrations?
How might consciously choosing to laugh at yourself or the absurdity of a situation ease tension in your life and relationships?
Try actively seeking amusement in frustrating situations. Observe how it shifts your perspective, puts you and others at ease.
It's a saving grace, truly.
Okay, moving through the pillars, the next critical one is acceptance.
This one can be tough.
It can. The Dalai Lama often refers to the wisdom of the Buddhist scholar Shantideva, who posed two simple yet profound questions.
Right. If a problem can be solved,
Then do it. If it cannot be solved.
then there's no use worrying about it.
Exactly. This, they explain, is the essence of acceptance. It is the only place where change can begin.
Acknowledging what is rather than endlessly feeling things should not be happening this way.
That resistance is the root of so much suffering.
Absolutely. This is beautifully echoed in the Serenity Prayer. The grace to accept what cannot be changed, courage to change what should be, wisdom to know the difference.
Timeless wisdom.
Indeed. Much of our unnecessary suffering stems directly from this resistance to reality, wanting things to be different than they are.
Fighting reality.
Yeah. The Dalai Lama notes accurately that when you develop some sort of unhappiness, some discontent, which leads to frustration and anger, it's often because you're stubbornly trying to control the uncontrollable.
Trying to bend reality to your will instead of accepting its unpredictability.
Exactly.
There's a subtle but powerful paradox here, isn't there? We're encouraged to aspire for noble goals, spiritual growth, even enlightenment,
Big goals.
but always without attachment to the outcome.
That's the tricky part.
Peace and equanimity, they explain, don't come from achieving every goal exactly as planned. They come from letting go of rigid assumptions about how things must happen or what the result must look like.
Your commitment shouldn't hinge on attaining a specific goal, but on the noble purpose itself.
That allows for profound inner freedom.
They remind us that life itself is constantly unpredictable, uncontrollable, and impermanent.
Can't argue with that.
True acceptance, then, is about cultivating an inner state where you don't allow yourself to be swayed by external circumstances, however turbulent. It's seeing life not as random injustices or roadblocks,
But as a veil of growth and development, where challenges inherently test us, strengthen us, help us learn and evolve.
This quality of acceptance is often considered the final pillar of a healthy mind before you can truly move into cultivating the qualities of the heart, like compassion.
Interesting, a prerequisite almost.
In a way.
So reflect on your own life right now. What situations or aspects are you most intensely resisting? Can you identify specific instances where your suffering primarily comes from wanting things to be different?
Practice acknowledging reality, even the painful or uncomfortable parts. It's the essential first step towards inner peace.
And paradoxically, it opens the door for real, lasting change. Okay, few concepts are as challenging or as transformative as forgiveness. The next pillar.
Definitely a good one.
The Archbishop recounts truly remarkable stories from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, accounts that often defy belief.
Stories of profound grace.
He speaks of mothers whose children were brutally murdered, yet choosing to forgive the perpetrators. In one astonishing instance, the parents of Amy Beale even employed the men involved in her murder.
Incredible. Working together for reconciliation.
He emphasizes that all of us possess the latent potential to forgive, asserting that no one is incapable of forgiving and no one is unforgivable.
That's a radical statement.
It is. He shared a moving story of a mother who, in visceral pain, threw her shoe at her son's betrayer during the commission.
Understandable reaction.
But later, after hearing his full confession and remorse, she not only embraced him but went on to consider him as a son, working together for peace.
Wow. From rage to embrace.
The Dalai Lama, too, offers incredibly powerful examples. He shares the story of Richard Moore, whom he calls his hero.
Blinded as a boy in Northern Ireland.
Yes, by a British soldier at age 9. Years later, Moore not only befriended and profoundly forgave the soldier,
but brought him to Dharamsala to meet the Dalai Lama.
Exactly, sharing his story of reconciliation. And the Dalai Lama, when asked if he could forgive China for his long exile,
What did he say?
he responds with profound insight. He says he feels concern for them, recognizing their actions stem from destructive emotions. This, he says, leaves no place for anger and hatred to grow within him.
He sees their actions harm themselves. Compassion eclipses resentment. And this is where it offers that radical shift. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It is unequivocally an act of immense strength and liberation.
Yes. As the Archbishop articulates so powerfully, without forgiveness, we remain tethered to the person who harmed us. We are bound to the chains of bitterness, trapped.
Until we can forgive, that person will hold the keys to our happiness. That person will be our jailer.
Forgiveness makes you your own liberator. It breaks the destructive cycle, allows you to move forward freely.
And modern science consistently confirms this. Studies by psychologists Charlotte Vanoy and Whitfleet show holding grudges increases heart rate, blood pressure, feelings of sadness, and anger.
It literally makes you sick.
While practicing empathy, even just imagining forgiveness, normalizes stress responses, promotes calm. Unforgiveness compromises the immune system.
Wow. There's a physical cost to holding on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The book outlines a powerful fourfold path to forgiveness.
Okay, what are the steps?
First, telling your story, acknowledging the pain. Second, naming the hurt, confronting its depth. Third, granting forgiveness, accepting shared humanity, releasing the right to revenge.
Not necessarily forgetting, but letting go of the desire for payback.
Right. And finally, renewing or releasing the relationship, allowing healing and closure, whether reconciliation happens or not.
That makes sense. It's a process.
It is. The Archbishop also shares a deeply personal story of forgiving his own father for how he treated his mother when drunk. And he recounted his biggest life regret, not talking to his father when his father asked to, just before he died, because he was simply too exhausted.
Oh, that's heavy.
This missed opportunity weighed on him until he later discussed it with his wife Leah and apologized, only to realize she had long ago forgiven him.
Grace from others, too.
It underscores how forgiveness is complex, ongoing, even with loved ones. And regret can come from our own inability to extend grace.
So, as you reflect on your own life, who are you currently holding on to resentment or anger towards? Consider how that burden, that heavy chain, might be impacting your well-being, physically and mentally.
What small, even subtle steps can you take today toward personal liberation through forgiveness, not just for others, but profoundly for yourself?
It's about setting yourself free. Moving to the next pillar, gratitude. This is one of the most powerful and accessible paths to joy.
It really is.
Consider the remarkable story of Anthony Reed Hinton. Spent 30 years on death row in Alabama for a crime he didn't commit.
Unimaginable injustice.
Yet he famously chose gratitude. He declared, "The world didn't give you your joy, and the world can't take it away."
Wow. Choosing joy despite everything.
After his release, he ran out into the rain, utterly overwhelmed, grateful for every single drop, having missed that simple sensation for 3 decades.
A testament that joy isn't about what happens to you, but how you choose to perceive and respond.
Yeah.
And this profound personal narrative resonates deeply with a wealth of scientific research. Psychologists Emmons and McCullough, pioneers in gratitude research.
What did they find?
They consistently found grateful people are significantly more empathic, generous, helpful. They exercise more report fewer physical symptoms, feel better about their lives overall.
So real, tangible benefits.
Absolutely. More positive emotions, vitality, optimism, life satisfaction, lower stress and depression. Even keeping a gratitude journal leads to making more progress toward personal goals.
Just writing things down helps you achieve more.
Apparently so. It reshapes our internal landscape.
It's clear gratitude isn't just a pleasant emotion. It's a powerful motivator, a fundamental shift in perspective. Hinton himself poses that powerful question.
The $1 billion versus waking up.
Right. Which is better, to have $1 billion and not wake up, or to be broke and wake up? He'd unequivocally choose waking up.
Emphasizing that simply being blessed to see another day should automatically give you joy.
He chose to focus intently on what he had, like seeing the sunrise, rather than dwelling on the injustice or what he lacked.
A radical inversion of our typical focus on scarcity.
Yeah.
Precisely. When we consciously recognize all we've been given, all the blessings in our lives, however small, it naturally leads to a profound sense of connection, a desire to care for and give to others.
Gratitude leads to generosity.
It expands our perspective from narrow self-focus to boundless appreciation of abundance, transforming our disposition from wanting to deep contentment. It's truly a wellspring.
So what are you genuinely grateful for today, right now, in this very moment? Can you consciously shift your focus from what might be lacking to what you already have?
Even just the ability to breathe freely, feel the sun's warmth, hear a loved one's voice.
Try keeping a gratitude journal, maybe just for a week. Observe how this consistent practice profoundly shifts your outlook, your motivations, your overall sense of joy.
It's simple, but incredibly powerful.
The next pillar, compassion, is perhaps the very heart of their message.
It feels central, doesn't it?
The Dalai Lama insists with unwavering conviction, too much self-centered thinking is the source of suffering. A compassionate concern for others' well-being is the source of happiness.
He sees the message of love and compassion found at the core of virtually all religions as different medicines aiming for the same cure.
To cure our pain and suffering by directing our energy outward.
Right. But this brings up that common, understandable question. I have enough problems of my own. Why should I worry about being more compassionate?
Yeah, doesn't it just add to the burden?
Well, the Dalai Lama responds with profound clarity, reminding us we are fundamentally social animals. Even kings depend entirely on the community.
Okay.
His core argument is incredibly counterintuitive yet deeply true. Thinking about and actively working to alleviate others' suffering actually profoundly reduces your own suffering.
Helping others helps yourself. How?
He even shares an amazing biological detail. Injured mice have been observed to heal faster when licked by others. It's a primal biological truth, connection, and concern accelerate well-being.
Wow. We're wired for that connection.
The Archbishop powerfully adds to this, arguing we are quite literally wired to be other-regarding. He says we shrivel if we only care for ourselves.
Satisfaction and joy become increasingly elusive when our focus is solely inward.
He shares personally that every time he's acted compassionately during apartheid or just helping someone, he experienced a profound, unparalleled joy found in nothing else.
So compassion isn't just an admirable virtue, it's fundamental to human flourishing, to our capacity for joy.
Exactly. But they make a crucial distinction here that's vital for our own well-being, between empathy and compassion.
Okay, what's the difference?
Empathy, they explain, is feeling another's emotion you feel with them, often experiencing their distress, which can be overwhelming.
Right, emotional contagion.
Compassion, however, is a more empowered state. It's not just feeling their pain, it's recognizing their suffering and then having the genuine desire to alleviate it.
A proactive outward energy.
Okay.
We want what is best for the other person.
Yes. It's about metaphorically removing the rock, crushing someone, rather than getting under it yourself and being crushed too. This allows us to be present and helpful without burnout.
That's a really important distinction for sustainability.
It is. And this then extends to the equally vital concept of self-compassion.
Treating yourself with kindness.
Understanding, acceptance, like you would a dear friend, especially when facing difficulties, failures, feeling inadequate.
Be kind to yourself.
Anthony Ray Hinton's story from death row provides another extraordinary testament here. After 3 years of profound anger and silence.
He heard another man crying.
Yes. Out of an innate compassion instilled by his mother, he spoke to the man, offered comfort. In that moment of reaching out, he found his own voice and sense of humor again.
Wow. Reaching out saved him in a way.
From that day, he tried to focus on other people's problems and found that every day I did, I would get to the end of the day and realize that I had not focused on my own suffering.
Profound self-liberation through compassion for others. So reflect on your own life. How much of your daily suffering comes from an often unconscious, narrow focus on me, me, me?
Can you consciously practice suffering with others, even just through genuine well wishes, a kind word, a small act of service?
And critically, how would treating yourself with the same profound compassion you so readily extend to a dear friend change your inner state and overall well-being?
It starts within.
And we arrive at our final pillar of joy, generosity.
The culmination in many ways.
The Archbishop states with profound conviction that our joy is enhanced when we make someone else happy. It is, as the timeless wisdom goes, in giving that we receive.
A foundational principle found across virtually every religious and spiritual tradition. It's Zakat in Islam, Tzedakah in Judaism, Dina in Buddhism and Hinduism.
It's a universal truth about the human spirit.
And once again, modern science offers compelling validation. Studies confirm our brain's reward centers literally light up as strongly when we give as when we receive.
Sometimes even more intensely.
Yeah. Research by psychologist Elizabeth Dunn consistently shows people experience greater happiness spending money on others compared to spending it on themselves.
Interesting. Giving feels better than getting, neurologically.
And the story of neurosurgeon James Doty is particularly powerful. After losing his entire fortune in a market crash.
He still honored his $30 million charity pledge.
Yes, because he'd realized through experience that money will not make you happy. His true happiness was tied to his intention to help others, not transient wealth.
Wow. That's commitment.
This principle of generosity isn't just about financial contributions, important as they are. It's equally about giving your time, your attention, your unique talents.
Right, giving what you have.
Research shows having a high sense of purpose, often tied to contributing to others, correlates with a remarkable 23% reduction in death from all causes.
23%, that's huge.
And volunteering reduces death risk by 24%. It's not just lofty sentimentality. It's, as the Archbishop says, common sense, fundamental to our health and well-being. Our well-being is linked to connection.
We need each other.
The Archbishop eloquently emphasizes we are, quite literally, made for goodness, wired for complementarity and togetherness. He asks, with piercing moral clarity, how obscene it is for us to spend the billions or trillions on what we call a budget of defense, when a very small fraction could provide clean water for countless children, alleviate immense suffering.
A challenging perspective on priorities.
He firmly believes ignoring this fundamental interconnectedness breaks the very laws of the universe governing our flourishing.
And his point about companies that genuinely care for employees seeing increased productivity and loyalty is fascinating. It shows this isn't just sentimentality, it's practical.
Absolutely. Employees who feel cared for naturally say, this is my company, work wholeheartedly, invest themselves fully.
He gives the example of a mother in a township collecting abandoned children, not knowing how she'd manage.
And how help began coming for her once she started. Goodness, being contagious, drawing unexpected support.
So reflect on your own life. How do you currently practice generosity daily, beyond just money?
Could dedicating even a small portion of your time, your unique talents, or your treasure to others not only bring them joy,
but profoundly enhance your own well-being and sense of purpose, making your life feel richer, more meaningful, more deeply connected?
The joy of giving. #tag outro.
And this brings us to a truly transformative understanding, doesn't it? This deep dive into the Book of Joy. Well, it's shown us that true, lasting joy isn't a fixed destination we arrive at.
No, it's much more dynamic.
It's a continuous journey, a journey woven through understanding and actively engaging with our inner world, and perhaps most profoundly with our connection to others.
Right. From diligently developing mental immunity to courageously embracing the boundless power of generosity. These lessons aren't just profound philosophies.
No, they're actionable, practical steps for your daily life, fundamentally shaping how you respond to everything life throws at you.
And if we connect all these threads to the much larger picture, the Dalai Lama profoundly believes the very purpose of human life is to avoid suffering and discover genuine happiness.
And that the deepest, most enduring joy comes from actively helping others.
While the Archbishop, with his characteristic passion, states with unwavering conviction that we are made for goodness, inherently wired for caring, connection, compassion.
They don't offer a naive or overly rosy view of life, though.
Not at all. Instead, they present a searingly honest view that even facing profound despair and suffering, we need only look again.
And we will see countless individuals, doctors, nurses, teachers, activists, ordinary people, all responding with remarkable compassion, kindness, resilience.
It's about remembering our inherent goodness and our deep, unbreakable interdependence.
As the Dalai Lama once jokingly said, if there's no real concrete purpose and result to all this wisdom and practice, it's better to sleep.
True enough.
But what we've had the immense privilege to uncover today offers a profoundly tangible purpose, the continuous, active cultivation of joy.
It is a lifelong process of deep personal growth, building resilience, constantly expanding our circle of connection, not just for our own benefit,
but truly for the betterment of all humanity.
Which brings us to a crucial question for you to ponder as you move forward from this deep dive. If time never remains still, if every moment is precious, and if it's up to you to use your time in the most meaningful way,
how will you choose to live your life so that when your final day eventually arrives, you will be able to leave with ease and without regrets?
Having cultivated joy not just for yourself, but with profound generosity for others too.
Thank you for joining us on this illuminating deep dive. We truly hope this exploration empowers you to apply these timeless lessons and actively create a life of profound and enduring joy.
For yourself and for the world around you.